Welcome to the Argentinian philosopher. Ideas made simple for everyday life. Ethics is something we deal with every day, whether we like it or not. From small personal choices, like whether to tell a white lie or not, to massive societal questions like justice and human rights, ethical philosophy shapes the world we live in. But where did these ideas come from? Who laid the foundations of how we think about right and wrong? Across history, certain philosophers have transformed the way we approach morality, challenging conventions and offering frameworks that still influence us today. In this video, we will rank 5 of the most influential ethical thinkers in history, exploring what makes their ideas important, their impact on society, and why their philosophies are still relevant today. Some of these names might be familiar, others might surprise you. Let's dive in and see who made the cut. Before we start, let's get something out of the way. Ranking philosophers isn't easy. Ethics isn't like a video game where one thinker can simply win, but to make this ranking meaningful, we need a set of criteria to measure their impact. Here's how we are ranking them. Originality of their ethical theory. Did they introduce groundbreaking ideas that change the way we think about morality? Real-world impact. Did their philosophy shape laws, cultures, and the way people live their lives? Relevance today. Do their ideas still apply in modern ethical debates, or are they a relic of their time? Of course, ranking philosophers is subjective, and you might have a different opinion. If you do, please let me know in the comments below. Now, on to our first entry. At number 5, we have Albert Camus, a thinker who approached ethics from an existentialist perspective. While his philosophy is often associated with existentialism, Camus preferred to call himself an absolutist. He asks a simple but fundamental question: what do we do in a world that seems to have no inherent meaning? In the myth of Sisyphus, Camus tells the story of a man condemned to push a boulder uphill for eternity, only to see it roll back down. He uses this as a metaphor for the human condition. Life often feels repetitive, even meaningless. But instead of despair, Camus urges us to rebel against the absurd, not through destruction, but through creativity, kindness, and embracing life on our own terms. Camus doesn't offer us strict rules like other moral philosophers. Instead, he challenges us to live authentically and with integrity, even in the face of uncertainty. While his philosophy does not provide us with a structured moral system, his influence on existential and modern thought earns him a spot on this list. At number 4, we have Friedrich Nietzsche, the ultimate challenger of traditional morality. Nietzsche didn't just question ethics, he wanted to dismantle it and rebuild it from the ground up. His critique of morality comes down to 2 opposing moral systems: master morality, which values strength, ambition, and self-creation, and slave morality, which he argues was born out of resentment and seeks to limit individual greatness by promoting humility and obedience. Nietzsche's famous phrase, "God is dead," isn't just an attack on religion. It's a recognition that traditional moral values were crumbling and that humanity needed to create new values for itself. While Nietzsche's ethics are controversial and often misunderstood, they remain incredibly influential. He challenged us to take control of our own moral frameworks and to embrace life with openness. In the third place, we have John Stuart Mill, the champion of utilitarianism, a philosopher who seeks the greatest good for the greatest number. Unlike rigid, rule-based ethics, utilitarianism is practical and flexible. It asks, what action will produce the most overall happiness? Mill refined earlier utilitarian ideas by adding the distinction between higher and lower pleasures. He argued that intellectual and moral pleasures are more valuable than lower pleasures like food or entertainment. His impact is massive. Mill ideas influenced democracy, human rights, and even modern economic policies. His arguments for individual liberty and the harm principle, that people should be free as long as they don't harm others, continue to shape ethical and political discussions today. Whether in public policy or in everyday decision-making, Mill's utilitarianism provides a real-world ethical framework that's still widely debated and applied. In second place, we have Immanuel Kant, a philosopher whose approach to ethics is as precise and structured as a mathematical formula. Kant believed that morality must be universal, objective, and grounded in reason, not based on individual preferences, emotions, or consequences. His ethical system is deontological, meaning that actions are right or wrong regardless of their outcomes. Kant's categorical imperative is a powerful moral principle. It tells us, act according to maxims that you would like to become universal laws. In other words, if lying is wrong, it's not just wrong sometimes. It's wrong always and in every situation. Even if lying could save a life, Kant insists that the principle of truthfulness must be upheld. Otherwise, morality collapses under exceptions and subjectivity. Kant's ethics aren't just about strict rules. They also emphasize human dignity. He argues that we should always treat people as ends in themselves, and never merely as means to an end. This means respecting individual autonomy and moral worth. His ideas helped shape modern human rights, legal systems, and international ethics. However, Kant's philosophy isn't without criticism. His system can be too rigid, leaving little room for moral complexity. What if telling the truth directly causes harm? What if the circumstances require flexibility? While some find this approach too absolute, others admire its clarity and moral consistency. Kant's influence in ethics is undeniable. His vision of morality as universal and grounded in reason continues to influence philosophy, politics, and law today. And finally, at the top of our list, we have Aristotle, a philosopher whose ethical insights remain as relevant today as they were 2000 years ago. While others build ethical systems based on rules or consequences, Aristotle focused on character, what it means to be a good person. His ethical framework is called virtue ethics, and at its core lies the concept of eudaimonia, often translated as happiness, but more accurately understood as living well or flourishing. For Aristotle, happiness isn't just about pleasure or following rules. It's about cultivating the right habits and virtues that lead to a fulfilling, meaningful life. Aristotle believed that virtue lies in balance, a concept that he called the golden mean. Courage, for instance, is a virtue, but too little of it leads to cowardice, and too much becomes recklessness. The key to ethical living, according to Aristotle, is practicing moderation and developing habits that refine our moral character over time. Unlike Kant's rigid rules or Mill's focus on consequences, Aristotle's approach is highly practical. It encourages us to think about who we are becoming rather than just what we should do in any single situation. Instead of relying on external rules, Aristotle suggests that a well-developed character naturally leads to good moral choices. His influence extends far beyond philosophy. His ideas have shaped education, leadership, psychology, and even self-improvement movements. The idea of lifelong learning and self-betterment traces back to Aristotle's belief that ethics is an ongoing journey, not a destination. In a world that often demands quick fixes and instant gratification, Aristotle's virtue ethics reminds us that true happiness comes from personal growth, discipline, and a life well lived. That's why Aristotle claims the top spot in our list. And there you have it, 5 of the greatest ethical thinkers of all time. From Camus' rebellion against absurdity, to Nietzsche's challenge to traditional morality, from Mill's pursuit of happiness to Kant's devotion to duty, and finally to Aristotle's vision of a well-lived life. These thinkers have shaped the way we understand right and wrong, justice and virtue. But here's the real question. Do you agree with this list? Maybe someone else should have made it into it. Socrates, Confucius, or maybe a modern thinker. Let me know in your comments below. I'd like to hear your opinion about it. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, share and subscribe for more deep dives into philosophy. And if you are hungry for more ethical debates, check out my videos on Aristotle and Kant, where we explore moral problems that continue to challenge humanity today. Thank you and see you next time.